ch.1. And, for those returning from my past 2 fanfics, welcome back and I hope you enjoy this story too. As for the newcomers, welcome. Though I would ask everyone to read the auxiliary chapter labeled, please read before reading this fanfic. Blank, underscore, blank, underscore, blank. I hungry, I thought to myself as I woke up with a yawn and stretch as I was curled up sleeping last night. Hopefully, Mom has found some food, I think as I walk towards the main chamber of our home in the mountains. I walk in and see Mom nowhere in sight. From the scent left behind, she should have left an hour ago. Boredom quickly took over as waiting more than 5 minutes felt like forever, so I decided to go outside to explore the surroundings. Even though Mom always yells at me for leaving without her around. She should be home and I don't want to wait inside. I'll fly back home should I hear her coming, I think as I poke my head outside the cave entrance to see if she is near. Seeing no animal, creature, or my mother in sight, I snuck outside. Though normally this area of the mountains is safe as no evil creature would come near Mom's home. She was the famous gold dragon of these mountains. Though my scales always looked slightly different than hers, they were golden but also had a silvery sheen to them. Oh well, she did tell me that my dad was special, I think, while walking outside and looking for the funny like dragon creature that Mom lets live near us. She calls them kobolds, I think, as I follow a familiar scent of these kobolds. She lets them live here because they are nice ones, just like us dragons. Kobolds come in different colors. The ones that live near us are copper-looking kobolds. Hello young one, I hear a kobold say to me in the language of dragons. Hi, Rock, I say excitedly to him as he is one of the few kobolds that plays with me and lets me help him on his hunts. What are you doing outside? Your mother will be upset when she comes back and sees you are not inside, Rock says to me with a smirk on his small dragon-like face. Mom won't know. I'll fly back before she finds out. I say to him with an annoyed face at his laugh hearing me. Whatever you say young one, Rock says with a chuckle. Can I help you hunt today? I ask him with the same look I give my mother so she agrees with my requests. Quote. Fine, just stop looking at me like that, Rock says with a sigh and I jump for joy at his agreement. But, you must follow all of my instructions without arguing, Rock says to me with a serious face. Deal, I say, not wanting to miss out on hunting. Then my stomach growls showing I'm still hungry. Quote. Seems we can hunt for both of us today, Rock says with a laugh as I look away embarrassed. We then got down the mountain as the goats in the area and other creatures lived further away from my mother's home. We walk in silence as we listen and smell for any signs of prey. Rock has taught me a lot about hunting. Though he always says for a dragon hunting is extremely easy, while for kobolds it can lead to death. But he always told me even dragons can die in a hunt, though I don't believe him. Remember Talrot, to treat every creature as one that could kill you. Because the day you underestimate your prey is the day you could die to it, Rock says to me, breaking the silence since we do not smell, hear, or see any prey nearby. I know, you say that every time we hunt, I say, annoyed with his constant caution. Talrot, my clan and I are good friends with your mother, so we worry about you. You are the first child of your mother and she asked us to keep you safe while she is away, Rock says to me while I just snort in annoyance. Then before I could respond, we both perk up as we hear what sounds like a goat running our way. We duck down behind a large rock to see a large mountain goat running from saber-toothed tiger. Rock became nervous as those giant cats could kill a lone kobold easily. Though for me I'm slightly bigger than the cat, Mom always said I was bigger than your average gold dragon. Rock, get the goat. I will scare the cat away, I say to Rock, who tries to stop me but I ignore him and jump out from our hiding spot. The goat stumbles at my sudden appearance and slides down the mountain, hitting a rock and becoming still. While the cat skids to a stop seeing me while roaring at me, seemingly nervous at my appearance. I let out a roar back, one that is nothing compared to my mom's but still much scarier than the cat's, I believe. Rock ran over to me, putting his spear in a defensive position between me and the cat. Talrot, run, I will distract the saber-tooth, Rock says with a nervous look but a serious voice. Though I ignore him, as I let out a stream of fiery breath at the cat, making it jump back to escape. I miss the cat, which is now charging Rock and me. Rock then rushes forward to meet its charge as the cat goes to swipe its claws at him. Seeing Rock in danger, I rush forward and bite the cat's arm mid-swing, crushing it between my jaws. The cat cries out in pain and bites down on the back of my neck but cannot pierce my scales. Though the force behind the bite is crushing my neck slightly. Though before I let go of the cat, Rock stabs his spear into the cat's chest. I feel the cat go limp as Rock pulls his spear free and I drop its arm from my mouth. Talrot, I said to not attack them. You did not listen, even when I told you to run. You promised to listen to me if I brought you along. Rock beings yelling at me in anger for me disobeying his instructions. I'm sorry, but I knew we could kill this cat. I say to him, justifying my reason. I do not care. Anything could have happened. You could have been killed or seriously injured. What do you think your mother would do should that have happened? Rock says, making me immediately think about my mom's reaction and wince at the thought. Sorry, I say with my head hung low after realizing my mistake. Quote. Talrit, it's fine, you are young and the young make mistakes. But you have to remember we older ones are here to help guide you so you do not make life-ending mistakes, Rock says to me, having calmed down slightly but still annoyed with me. I will grab the goat. You think you can carry the tiger? Rock says with a sigh while looking at the two dead animals. Sure, I say, nodding my head and picking up the tiger with my mouth. I follow Rock back to his clan's cave entrance. Rock and the Golden Prince. One of the kobold watchers at the entrance exclaims at our approach. The kobolds have many nicknames for me. The Golden Prince is one of them, as my mom is the ruler of these mountains. You have brought back quite the haul. The other watcher says, seeing us bring in the two dead animals. The goat is for us, but the tiger belongs to the prince as he was the one who bested it, Rock says to them, and the two watcher nod in understanding. I'll share. I do not eat that much yet anyway, I say to them after dropping the cat. The two watchers then smile as they call for others to drag away the animals for cleaning. Mom and the kobolds always clean out a few organs as they are not meant for eating, though I find the heart and liver to be my favorite organs of any creature. I spend the next hour feasting on the cat that I slayed and left the remains for the kobolds. Right after I finished eating, I hear my mother's roar signifying her return. So I scramble out of the kobold's cave and fly to my home before my mom gets there. Seems I was not fast enough as my mother was standing at the entrance with a dead elephant. At my appearance, my mother stops cleaning the elephant, while giving me a very angry and disapproving look. Talrit, what is the first rule when I leave for a hunt? Mom says to me while I sit down in front of her with my head hung low at being caught. Do not leave the cave, I say to her with a defeated voice as I suspect her to berate me for disobeying her again. Quote. Talrit, these rules are in place to keep you safe, Mom says with a tired sigh as she just seems to have given up yelling at me. I know, but I get so bored sitting in here by myself. Plus you were gone longer than usual. I even got to hunt and kill a saber cat tiger. I say to her and then shut my mouth, realizing my mistake after I already said it. What? You went hunting by yourself? And even challenged a saber tooth? Mom yells at me with anger very prevalent in her voice. Yes, I say, not wanting Rock or the other kobolds into trouble. Talrit, I swear to, Mom beings to say before we hear two roars that are not familiar to me. Though my mother appears very nervous at the roars and looks down at me. Without saying anything, she grabs me in her one hand and flies me to the kobold cave, dropping me off at the entrance. Keep my son safe, Mom says to the watchers who nod their heads, ushering me inside the cave. Mom, what is happening? I shout at her as the kobolds try to push me inside, but I do not budge. Talrit, stay here and do not leave the kobolds unless I come to get you. It seems a pair of red dragons are here to challenge this domain, Mom says to me as she looks at me with a serious face before flying off to meet the two red dragons. Inside quickly, Golden Prince. Red dragons will kill you on sight. One of the watchers says to me with an extremely scared voice while I watch my mother leave. I follow them inside the cave and go to a deeper level where the clan leader is. The clan leader is Rock's grandfather named Uglu. Rock is the next leader because Rock's father was killed during a raid from an opposing clan of kobolds a few years ago. I sit outside the small hut of the clan leader and his family. Rock comes out of the hut to sit down next to me with a sigh, seeing my worried look. Talrit, I'm sure your mother will succeed in driving away these intruders. This is not the first time she was challenged, I hear, Rock says to me, and I shake my head at his words. I hope, but I've never seen my mom nervous like she was today after those roars were heard, I say to him as he goes quiet, hearing me. Your mother is one of the oldest and most respected gold dragons known, very few can challenge her, let alone match her strength. I'm sure she will succeed in driving away these would-be usurpers, Rock says to me with a smile but eyes that show he is just as nervous as I am. Dragons of all kinds keep underlings, as my mother calls them, the ones that follow my mother are these copper kobolds. Should my mother fall, they will be all wiped out if not driven away first. After a few minutes of silence, we can hear the battle growing louder and closer to the kobold cave. Rock and I share a nervous look as he gets up to gather his clan. 21 comments, 0 vote. Ch.2. Rock and several other copper kobold clan members ran to the entrance of the cave while Uglu and a few older clan members rushed somewhere else. I quickly followed after Rock to see how my mom was doing. Running behind them since it was too little space for me to fly down here, I stopped at the entrance where we can see the 3 ancient dragons fighting above us. The one bigger looking red dragon was heavily injured but still putting up a fight, while the other red dragon had many injuries but looked much better. My mom was very injured too, not as much as the one red dragon but more than the other one. I became extremely worried about her as I grew antsy seeing her. Then I see the other red dragon about to grab my mother's neck from behind. I roared to get their attention while flying up a few feet into the air. All dragons stopped fighting for a split second to look down. The less injured red dragon diverted its attention to me, quickly dropping down to kill me. My mom used this to claw the heavily injured one's neck, making it drop down looking dead while driving after the one other. Rock screamed for me to get back into the cave, which I quickly dropped down and rushed behind them back into the cave. The red dragon dropped at the entrance just as the kobolds and I reached the back of the cave's entrance. The red dragon let loose a breath of extremely hot fire that we managed to dodge at the last second. Though it killed a few other kobolds while burning my tail slightly. Normally I'm immune to even the hottest of fires, but mom once told me that dragon fire holds magic in it too, which can hurt even gold dragons. We then hear the battle take place outside as my mother landed behind the red dragon, grabbed it by the tail and pulled it away from the cave. The two then scuffled on the ground as my mom finally used her tail and smacked the red dragon, making it stumble back from the strike. My mom then turned to the cave to see if I was fine, but I can now tell that my mother is a lot more hurt than I originally thought. Rock, take my son and escape this place. Mom yells to Rock as the red dragon launched itself at her with a roar. My mom turned to meet its charge. Come Talrot, we must not linger, Rock says to me while trying to push me deeper into the cave. I can't leave my mom, I say, refusing to move, while more kobolds run up to try to push me deeper into the cave. Talrot, do not let your mother's fight be for nothing. If you remain, this is all for nothing. Rock says to me, desperate to get me to leave, while I stare at my mom who is desperately fighting the remaining red dragon. With a roar of pain and sadness at leaving my mom, I turn and run deeper into the cave with the kobolds behind me. I then follow Rock as he ushers his remaining clan members to follow. We all reach the place where Uglu and the other clan elders went to see a giant blue rift being opened up. Rock, take the others through, we cannot hold it open much longer. Uglu screams to his grandson and Rock nods with a hard-to-read expression. Go Talrot, I'm right behind you, Rock says to me as the last remaining copper kobolds run through the rift. Looking back to where the fighting is taking place, my eyes water up at the thought of never seeing my mother again. Then I run through the portal. After crossing the other side, I stumble as a few kobolds were standing a few feet from the rift. Looking around in the extremely dark cave that seems to have no natural light, we find ourselves in a huge empty cave structure. With only the sounds of water dripping from the ceiling and the breathing of the kobolds. Then the rift closes with only Rock coming out right before it does. He appears to be just as sad as me. Seems like me he lost his only remaining family. Rock, where are we? I ask as all the other kobolds turn, hearing me and looking at Rock curious too. I'm not sure. The magic that the elders used was passed down every generation as the last resort to escape danger. We have lost the knowledge of where it leads, Rock says while looking around for any danger. Rock, you are clan leader now. What do we do? One of the kobold hunters asks Rock while the others look to Rock for guidance. Now we find a place to call our own. Talrot, I want you to stay with us. Our clan has served your mother for many centuries, and we'd like to do the same for you, Rock says to me while bowing his head slightly, and the other kobolds quickly follow suit. You don't need to bow. You are family. Of course, I want to stay with you all. I say to Rock and he smiles along with many of the other kobolds. I want all the hunters to explore the surrounding area. Then come back here before the day is out. As for everyone else, gather what we have so we know what we will need. Rock says after thinking about what to do, and immediately almost all of the clan hunters warriors run off to explore the surroundings. Rock then has the remaining kobolds gather the items they all brought with them. Watching this all happen, I think about my mother and all the things she taught me. She said as I age I will instinctually know magic as it comes from my blood, and that the older a dragon is the stronger a dragon becomes. True dragons, she told me, never stop growing until the day they die. Plus she told me the copper clan of kobolds is different than the rest. From the many she met, they appear to be the smartest and bravest. After a few hours of waiting, as I lay on the ground just thinking about my mother, all of the hunters return except for one. Rock ran over as I stood up and followed, wanting to hear about the area too. The hunters then took turns explaining what the surrounding area appears to be like. They each came to believe we are either in part of the Underdark that my mom once told me is extremely dangerous. As they each explored different areas and none lead to the outside, nor did they find any signs of other life. Though Rock does not believe that to be true as one hunter is missing, he then tells 3 of the hunters to go after the lost one to see what may have happened. Rock, you really think we might be in the Underdark? I ask him as the 3 hunters run off to find the missing one. I hope not, Talrit. That would make our survival all that much harder. We creatures that respect life and have honor do not survive long in that place, Rock says while sighing and walking back to the other kobolds. Once again we wait for the hunters to come back and yet none do, so Rock deems the passage they went unsafe and had 4 hunters guard the entrance to the place while everyone rested. Once we all slept and woke up the next day, Rock had everyone follow the one path that the one hunter explored and Rock deemed the safest out of all the paths. We walked with Rock and a few of the older hunters at the front, as I stayed in the middle helping carry some of the items the kobolds brought. After walking for hours we start to the lava pit that the one hunter found. As soon as the heat hit us the kobolds seemed to wince as they are not fireproof like me, though I found this heat to be very comforting. Walking inside the area we see that it is extremely huge, bigger than even the mountain my mother made for her home. The pit of lava looked to be thousands of feet wide and maybe around 1,000 feet up we see the sky. Rock, we are not in the Underdark, but a huge volcano. I say looking up at the sky as the other kobolds look up and exclaim in happiness at not being trapped in the Underdark. The gases from a volcano do not affect me as my mom told me that gold dragons are immune to all poisons and forms of fire, other than the breath of a fellow dragon. The kobolds can resist the fumes and heat of the lava for a few hours at best but do not enjoy being near it as I do. I run over to the edge of the pit leading to the lava as the kobolds look at me worried. My instincts scream at me to jump into the lava to swim in it. I then begin to shift around excitedly contemplating jumping down. Talrit, what are you doing? Rock says while looking at me nervously and the others watch nervously too. I want to swim in the lava, I say without looking back as my instincts scream at me to jump down into it. Talrit, I don't think even, Rock begins to say before I jump down as he and several other kobolds rush over to look down at me. Talrit, Rock yells after me as I let out a roar of happiness after landing in the lava that was a maybe 100 feet below the edge we were on. The feeling of the lava washing over me was extremely exhilarating, nothing like the baths mom made me take before in the cold rivers or lakes. This was like I was being massaged all over, while the lava cleaned everything off of me, melting it away. I then began rolling around in it as I sank a bit, then opened my eyes to see I was under the lava's surface. Jumping out of the lava I flew back to Rock and the others who were looking at me with wide eyes. Talrit, why did you do that? Rock says to me worried about me while I shake off the remaining lava and stretch, feeling very relaxed. Because my instincts told me to and they were right. That was the most amazing thing I've ever felt before. I say wanting to spend all day just relaxing in the volcano. I see, Rock says nodding his head, while the other kobolds nod along. Just like dragons, kobolds place a lot of stock in our natural instincts. Well, we cannot stay here longer, we must find a suitable place to claim as our own. Then find a way outside to gather more things we need to survive, Rock says looking around for another way as this is as far as the hunter came last time. We see another opening across the other side of the volcano, luckily the edge we are on is big enough for the kobolds to walk around to it. Though it takes them almost an hour since the volcano is so large. I use this time to swim in the lava while making my way to the other side since I can fly other there at any moment. Talrit, we are ready when you are. Rock says yelling down at me as I played in the lava making rocks on the walls by placing lava on them to cool. Oh okay, I say flying up to the kobolds and landing to see them gathered around the only other entrance to the volcano's center. I want you 4 to walk ahead scouting it out as we follow behind, Rock says pointing to the most experienced hunters who run off ahead of the rest of us. Let's go, Rock says after waiting a few minutes to give the hunters some lead before we follow after them. 16 comments 0 vote. Ch.3. As we walked down the new passageway we found a place to call home eventually. As we had hours of walking after deciding which place to turn since there were many forks in the road. We found a huge open cavern inside the volcano that could thousands if not tens of thousands of kobolds comfortably. It was a beautiful open cave system we stumbled across. It also had an underground stream flowing through it with fresh water, a place I could stay with the kobolds for decades before I became too large to live with them. Okay, everyone, this will be our new home. I want you all to begin to set it up for our permanent stay. You 4, go see if there are any local passages that can lead us outside to hunt for the things we need, Rock says to everyone while pointing to 4 hunters who run off in search. Talrit, this place is big enough for you to stay with us. Are you going to stay or do you wish to find a place of your own? Rock asks me as the clan quickly begins to work to make this place their new home. I will stay, I'm still small. Plus I'd rather not be alone right now in this unknown place, I say to Rock who nods his head in understanding. I decided to help the kobolds by doing a lot of the heavy lifting, as I may be just a tiny thing to dragons, but I'm still 5 times the size of an average kobold. After helping the kobolds for a few hours set this place up, all the hunters return with 2 saying they found places that lead outside. Though from what they saw they still have no idea where we are, as nothing outside suggests we are somewhere we have heard of before. Rock and I follow the 2 hunters to the one place they discovered. As we ran down a new passageway we finally came across a smaller entrance that shows the outside world. Seeing it, I wanted to jump out and fly around freely as any dragon loves to do. But I held back as the fear of those ancient red dragons are still fresh in my mind. Rock and the 2 hunters peeked their heads out to look around for any danger as I slowly did the same. Looking out we can see a huge forest below the volcano, and eventually, the forest leads to a huge place of water that could be a huge lake or the ocean. The volcano we are on shows no signs of life from the side we are on. Though the forest below shows many different animals living inside it. Seems safe enough. We will send a few hunting parties to gather some things later. Let's see the other place you found, Rock says as we all step back inside the volcano. Following the kobold hunters, they led us to the other place they found, which was closer to the new home of the clan and had a much larger entrance to the volcano. One that even my mother could fit in. The scenery is the same as the last place, so the only difference is the size of the entrance. Luckily, there are no signs of a dragon or any other creature living here. We then quickly make our way back to the clan, as Rock sends 2 groups of hunters to fetch any important things we could use while also telling us about the area around the volcano. Rock, can you tell me about the different kobolds? I ask him after we finally have some time to relax as Rock and I sit by the hut I helped him construct for him and his future family. Like what? Rock says, confused about what I mean. Mom told me that most kobolds hate the sun as it bothers them. The hunters just left while the sun was up, yet you all seem fine with it. I say to him, curious, as even my mother did not know that much about kobolds as she viewed them as not important enough. That is true for the most part, though as you know there are different color kobolds as dragons. Our clan has 2 known types of kobolds that actually light the sun, but living in a cave is much safer, so we stay here, Rock says to me while eating some dried goat the clan brought with us. So are there as many colors of kobolds as dragons? I ask him and he shakes his head. No, you dragons have much more types than us kobolds. We have only different types as far as I'm aware. There are us, the Copper clan, known for our bravery and wits. Then the opposite, the Sand clan, which looks like us but with scales that are much less shiny like a chromatic dragon. Your scales are much shinier, being a metallic dragon. The Sand clan, like ours, like the sun and usually live in the deserts. They are smart like us too but are not brave and instead like to backstab, running at the first sign of danger, Rock says to me while speaking with disgust, the more he talks about the Sand clan. The other 2 are the more well-known clan of kobolds that humans constantly think we are all like. The Red clan are like red dragons, but much less intelligent, acting like goblins and hate the sun as it bothers them for some reason. They spawn new blood like crazy because they die just as much, and they have little to no tactical thoughts, using numbers to win a fight. Though, unlike the Sand clan, they fight to the end, only because they have no intelligence to run if necessary, Rock says with an annoyed look, talking about humans and the Red clan. What about the last one? I ask him since he seems to have forgotten. He said there were 4. The last one is more of a myth among our kind. They are silver kobolds that can be born to any clan, and if one is born it is said to bring about huge changes to the clan. Either good or bad is unknown, just that the changes will come, Rock says to me with a shrug, thinking about it. Did your clan ever have a silver member? I ask curiously. Not that I'm aware of, though maybe we did. Every clan claims to have had 1 silver member at one point, Rock says with an indifferent shrug. We then fall silent as Rock seems to be thinking about his clan's future, as I think about all the things he just told me about. Then the 1 hunter group returns with many items the clan could use. Like several deers, a couple of bundles of wood, and many types of herbs the healers use. After the first group returns, the second returns an hour later with just as many items as the first. As luck would have it, neither group lost any members, and from what they could see we really are in a huge volcano, so big that it looks like it reaches the sky. The forest goes on for hundreds of miles, the hunters believe, with many different prey they found and few predators. From everything the hunters tell us, this place seems like a paradise for us all, though the hunters do not have an idea what is on the other side of the volcano from our side. As the volcano is too large to traverse in one day to see what lies on the other side. I offered to look since I can fly, but Rock denied it, saying it was too risky and he'd rather not have me out alone until I'm an adult or large enough to defend myself. Like that, a week passed with the clan thriving and building up everything they left behind while exploring our surrounding more. From what the clan found, it seems that the kobolds are one of the best predators in the area, as the biggest threats they found are in the forest. There appear to be giant tiger-like creatures, though they are all black in color. Plus bears roam the forest as well, so the hunters feel that groups no more than 4 would be necessary for outings. Letting more groups leave at once instead of being slower to accommodate the large numbers. Rock agreed to allow groups of 4 instead of 10 to go out for trips, making 5 groups leave at a time instead of 2 large ones. As a month passed, I grew a few inches, as my boredom increased to very high levels, and since the hunters deem it safe, I finally convinced Rock to allow me to accompany one of the groups the next time they leave. Having enough supplies, Rock sent a large group of hunters out to explore the other side of the volcano and tell us about our whole surroundings. As the large group left to go scout, I excitedly waited by the large cave entrance for my smaller group of hunters to explore the surrounding. Golden Prince, I ask you to stay with us at all times. Your life is the most important out of us all, as you will become the king of this volcano when you are big enough to claim it, the one hunter says to me as the group makes its way over to me. I know, I'm just tired of staying in the cave and want to see outside already. I haven't flown in what feels like years. I say, stretching my wings and looking outside as the group of hunters just nod their heads walking outside. As soon as they step outside, I jump from the cave entrance and spread my wings, flying in the air once again. The feeling of the wind on my face and the sense of freedom from flying fill me up. My excitement is so high and my joy is too. I let out a happy roar that echoes in the area. I may be small, but the roar makes the birds in the forest right below the volcano flee in fright. The group of hunters scrambles down the mountain, seeing me fly to the forest below. I fly in circles above the trees at the forest's entrance, waiting for the hunters, enjoying the sense of freedom once again. Golden Prince, please, you must wait for us. The leader of the hunting group says to me while the others all catch their breaths, having run down the volcano to catch up to me. Sorry, I was just so excited to be outside once again, I say while landing next to the group and looking into the forest to see no animal in sight, probably because of my roar. Just please do not leave us again. We cannot protect you if you are not with us, the leader says to me with a desperate look. I just nod my head as I walk into the forest with the kobolds quickly following behind me. So have any of you reached the water yet? I ask them as we walk through the forest with the leader and another kobold ahead of me, while the other 2 were behind me. None of our group have reached the water yet, but a couple of others have. They believe it is the ocean as the water tasted of salt and the air smelled of salt, the leader says to me without turning around as the group stays alert for any sign of danger. Then let's go see the ocean. I've only heard stories about it from my mother, about a place of water that never seems to end. I say to them and the leader seems hesitant but nods his head after some thought. Sure, Golden Prince, we can go see the ocean, the leader says, changing course to the suspected ocean. I grew very excited as all golden dragons can breathe underwater and I've never swam in the ocean before. I skipped along behind the 2 kobolds as they lead our group to the ocean. 24 comments, 0 vote. Pissed. Download the app for additional rewards. More events, more perks. Winning you more free perks. Download now. Anamander_Adar. Download app now. ch.4. As we walked through the forest, all the animals avoided us for various reasons, I would guess. Eventually, we reached the ocean, which had a huge sandy ground that the waves would wash up on. I stood still on the outskirts of the forest with the 4 kobolds as we all stared in awe at the sight of the never-ending water. We've heard the stories of the ocean, but seeing it yourself is a whole nother thing. I ran to the water with the kobolds quickly following behind me as we each jumped into the water. The feeling was not like the lava that felt like I could spend eternity laying in it, this was much different. While the lava made me relaxed and comfortable, this made me very awake due to the cold temperature and restless. Though like any gold dragon, I can breathe underwater, so I dived down to see what was under the water. I was disappointed to see nothing but a sandy bottom, so I quickly swam a few dozen feet out. Yet even there I saw nothing of interest, so popping my head up out of the water I could see the kobolds on the beach calling my name. I dived back down in the water, then propelled myself out so I could fly back to the kobolds. Jumping out of the water, my wings snapped out and I flew back to the waiting kobolds. Once there I told them that I saw nothing under the water and that maybe the ocean isn't as full of life as we all heard it was. We spent the next 2 hours playing in the ocean, I even flew the kobolds up in the air and dropped them in the water at their request. Eventually, we all got hungry and decided it was time to hunt and gather some items the clan could always make use of. We all then made our way back into the forest, though this time we all were in hunting mode. As we crept through the woods as silently as possible, smelling and listening to all the surroundings for signs of prey. After finding some fresher prints that look like a small herd of deer, we followed the tracks. They lead us to a small herd of a dozen or so deer, that were grazing or napping in the woods. The wind was in our favor as any good hunter would make sure of. The kobolds split up to surround the deer so the one hit could not escape easily. They then each threw the spear they carried at a deer, surprising the animals as they all jumped up in fright, fleeing. Though 2 of the spears found their marks, one killed the prey instantly while the other struggled on the ground in pain since its one lung was pierced. 2 kobolds ran over to each prey. The dead one was quickly being cleaned of its useless organs, while the other was quickly finished off. I came out once the fighting was over as I can hunt, but did not want to mess with the kobolds' synergy. The now 2 dead deer were quickly cleaned of the inedible organs. I then grabbed the 2 deer and slung them on my back to carry for the kobolds. Golden Prince, you do not need to carry them for us. We are strong enough to carry our own prey, the lead kobold says, seeing me carry the 2 deer for them. It is fine, plus it will free you all up in case you need to fight, I say with a shrug and began walking back to our home. The kobolds don't argue with my logic and follow behind me. As we walked back to the cave, the kobolds stopped a few times to grab some mushrooms and herbs they came across. Right before we left the forest and started climbing the mountain to our home, I heard something following us. Snapping my head back, I see a giant black tiger jumping out of the woods. Before any of us could react, it grabbed the one kobold in the back, killing it instantly with a snap of his neck. The 3 others jumped into action with angry shouts at their friend being killed. They charged the tiger with their spears, but the tiger jumped away from their reach in time. I shook the 2 deer off my back and jumped after the tiger. The tiger released the dead kobold so it could dodge my strike. I did not want to use my fire since I was with kobolds and I was taught by my mother that nature is innocent and should be saved if possible. So I also did not want to burn down the forest without a good reason. The tiger gave a low guttural growl towards me, and surprisingly it was slightly larger than the saber-toothed cats found in our old home. I responded in kind with a growl as the one kobold grabbed their dead clan member and the other 2 rushed over to help fight the tiger. The tiger jumped toward me while aiming to grab my neck with its jaws. I stood up on my hind legs to make the attempt harder. While also swiping with my forelegs attempting to gut the beast midair, the 2 kobolds stabbed out their spears to skewer it. The tiger managed to bite my shoulder, but like any creature that is not magical by nature, it cannot pierce my scales. While my one swing missed and the other only cut deeply into its side, plus the 2 spears pierced into its sides. The tiger let go of my neck quickly from the pain, but before it could jump back, I grabbed its neck with my jaws. I easily tore into its flesh and crushed its neck in one bite. The tiger let out a final whimper before death took it. Dropping the tiger, I let out a roar signifying my victory and claiming this area as my domain, just as my mother taught me. Afterward, I grabbed the 2 deer and now tiger, carrying them to our home, while the 2 hunters carried their clan members. The leader carried the items they gathered from the forest as we all silently made our way back. Once home, the leader explained what happened and how I avenged the clan member by killing the beast that killed him. That night we all feasted on the dead tiger, with me eating it mostly, in memory of the dead hunter. Like that, a few months passed, with me leaving the cave on my own as I no longer wanted the kobolds to babysit me. Rock wanted to refuse, but could not since I was technically their king. A few days after the new month started, the large group of clan members sent out to scout the surrounding areas returned with only a few missing kobolds. Rock and I quickly made our way over to them after they returned to hear what they learned. Golden Prince and clan leader, the leader of the scouting party, says, bowing his head at our approach. What did you see? I ask, and Rock nods his head, wanting to hear it. Much. The place we reside truly is a volcano and much larger than anything we have heard of before. The volcano looks to be thousands of feet high and 10 times that size in length. It took us a month just to get to the other side of the volcano. All around the volcano was a huge forest just like the one below us. I believe we are on the coast or an island, as the ocean was surrounding the west side of us, the leader says while grabbing a drink that one of the hunters handed him. Though there is some bad news, the leader says as Rock and I become slightly worried. The leader paused to take a drink. Once we reached the other side of the volcano, we discovered there were hundreds, maybe thousands of drakes nesting in it. Not only that, but humans have made their stone cities below the nests. They appear to be riding these drakes and have tamed them. We even saw a few hunting parties of these humans, some appear to be magic users. Luckily no human or drake spotted us, the members we lost, were on our journey back. As there are more predators in the mountains than we first thought. The beast was almost as big as the drakes but had no wings. I have no idea what it was. It was nothing we have seen or heard tales of before, the leader says as Rock's face becomes grim hearing the news as I think about what my mother told me of humans and drakes. She said humans are the most crafty and underhanded beings in existence, willing to do anything to better themselves. While drakes are like us dragons, but much smaller with only 2 back legs, physically weaker, and less intelligent. Having only slightly more intelligence than your average beast, I think to myself as Rock finally speaks. Then we avoid that side at all costs. We cannot afford to fight with humans. Especially ones that tamed drakes, while the prince is still young, Rock says to me while shaking his head annoyed at learning we have humans nearby. For now, we must not let them know we are here. If any come near our side they must all be killed so they do not alert the others. From now on, all humans are to be killed on sight, Rock says and all the hunters nod their heads, some with excited faces as kobolds have always hated humans and races similar to humans. Talrit, you need to be extra careful from now on. If any human spots you or drake they will try to kill you on sight. The humans may even try to capture you as they are greedy creatures, much like goblins, Rock says to me with a serious face and I nod my head, as fear enters me at the thought of being killed or captured. The other side of the volcano is forbidden to everyone, though I do want lookouts to patrol around our claimed area. They are to alert us to any humans or drakes that come immediately, but Horn, Rock says and the hunters nod before several form groups to go watch the key areas around our new home. Talrit, just please do not go exploring too far from now on, Rock says once the kobolds all run off to perform their duties. I won't, I don't want to lose the last of my family, I say to him and he smiles up at me nodding his head. Time quickly passes with a few years going by. There have been a few humans that have traveled this far to our side, but luckily the hunters have killed them before they could escape. So far no drake has come to this side, each human killed though appeared to be ragged in appearance, Rock believes that means they are no one important enough for the humans to come searching for in big groups. At this point, I'm no longer considered a wormling by my kind. I've grown to the next stage, which is a juvenile, and now I'm at least twice the size of an elephant. As I grew older, my instincts kicked in passing down instinctual knowledge of spells. My mother said true dragon's blood is mostly magic and so our spells are stronger than most beings. The spells I've come to know are very little and not much use to me for now, they are, dancing lights, mending, spare the dying, and, command. As the names suggest, dancing lights lets me make a few orbs of lights that brighten a small area. Mending lets me fix slightly broken objects, like the huts of the kobolds or the stone weapons they use. Spare the dying is the most important I feel, as it lets me stabilize a fallen creature keeping it from dying but only for an hour. If the creature does not get help or more healing within that time, it will pass on. As command suggests, it lets me force a creature to follow a single command of mine, but only if it has a weaker will or mind than me. 17 comments 0 vote. Ch.5. After I grew to become a juvenile the hunters made places in the woods where they could stop for a day to venture further out. Plus these places offer a place for the kobolds to keep a few hunters on lookout of any dangers. The clan has had a good few years under the leadership of Rock, expanding their territory and births of new clan members. Rock even had a few children to pass on his mantle once he dies. My mother always told me not to grow attached to short-lived begins, as we dragons will outlive most. Even knowing that Rock will die in a few decades yet I will not even be considered an adult among my kind by that time, I still grew to love him as family. Since I've grown bigger, I've moved to the large entrance leading outside from the clan's residence. Clan members and Rock will come to visit at least once a day to see if I need anything. Though now I can provide for myself, hunting in the woods when I'm hungry or drinking in one of the many streams and rivers leading from inland to the ocean. The humans seem to have stopped showing up near our side, even though before it was extremely rare for them anyway. Either they all died or became busy dealing with something else since Rock says humans go to war a lot since it is their favorite pastime. As a new day started, I stretched before jumping from my cave and snapping my wings to look below me for my breakfast. After flying for a few minutes I spotted a creature that the hunters told us about living in the mountains. This creature was slightly smaller than me, with no wings but resembled a dragon in appearance. Was covered in brownish red scales, two small horns coming from its head, and what looks like fur coming from its chin. This creature looks to be able to breathe fire that is extremely weaker compared to mine but still can easily kill lesser creatures. It was in the middle of hunting it appeared, then I realized it was sneaking up on a group of my kobolds. Diving down, I landed on the back of the creature biting into its neck and tearing into its flesh. The creature let out a roar of pain, making the kobolds jump back in surprise and fear, but seeing me they all rushed over to help. Though by the time they came, I had already broken the neck of the beast and stood atop its carcass. Letting out another roar showing my dominance of this area, the kobolds joined me letting out war cries. Golden Prince, thank you for saving us. This is the first one we've seen enter your domain, the leader of the group says to me as they all bow their heads to me respectfully. It is fine, your clan is under my protection and I intend to keep you all safe as best I can, I say to them and they all nod their heads happily at me as I grab the dead beast with my claws and fly back to my cave. Once I land in the cave, I call down the tunnel for a kobold to come see me, as they have placed a few kobolds away down the tunnel in case I need them. As I waited for the kobold to come to me, I tore open the dead beast's body. The organs I noticed were slightly similar to dragons from the knowledge we dragons have naturally about ourselves. As I was inspecting the beast's insides and tasting the flesh after cooking it slightly, it was very bland in flavor, like I was eating dirt. Golden Prince, what did you need? The kobold says to me, watching me grunt in disgust after tasting the dead beast. I want you to bring others to come clean this beast out of my cave. The clan can have everything from this beast, it does not fit my taste, I say, going back out to hunt another creature, like a goat or deer, which have wonderful flavor. Are you sure? The kobold asks while looking at the beast with hungry eyes, since kobolds love to eat about anything and have little to no regard for flavor. Wouldn't have told you if I wasn't sure, I say, and then jump out of my cave in search of new prey. After a few hours of hunting and eating a dozen deer, I was full and decided to nap by the stream I just cleaned my teeth and claws in. My mother told me as golden dragons we have an image to show, and should always ensure we are clean. The nap was short-lived, as I heard voices speaking in Draconic, which at first I thought was kobolds. Then their smell hit me and I realized it was humans. I was surprised to hear humans speaking Draconic, since my mother said humans rarely speak Draconic and the ones who do are usually magic users. I stood up and hid deeper in the brush best I could, as I prepared to kill them at first sight. After a few tense minutes of waiting, a small group of 5 humans came out of the woods and ran over to the stream, drinking heavily from it. They were all dressed in what looked like rags and were extremely dirty. From what little I know about humans, I assumed none were good magic casters as they were dressed poorly. I was about to unleash a stream of fire killing them, but I was curious about them as well. So I held off killing them for now and instead decided to listen in on what they were saying as each spoke Draconic. We need to keep moving. The slave hunters could be still on our trail. One of the older-looking male humans said while the 4 others looked exhausted. We can't. We've been on the run for weeks. Plus they would not enter these cursed woods. This part of the land is where all the deadest beasts reside. Another man says while resting against a rock by the stream. Even more reason for us to keep moving. If we remain out in the open, who knows what beast will kill us? The man who first spoke says back. Quote. Everyone, don't move. There is a huge creature right over there, one of the smaller humans says while pointing in my direction with a shaking hand. All the humans fall quiet and look over at me. I stood still hoping they don't see me, but upon realizing that my cover is blown, I stepped out into the open. As I wanted to converse with the humans before killing them, I wanted to learn more about them. They all started to shake at my sight and one even pissed himself, making me scrunch up my nose in disgust. Though that seemed to make them all that much more nervous, and right before they ran, as they all seemed ready to run, I spoke up. Before you all run, I want to ask a few questions. Plus if you run, I will have to kill you now, I say to them, hoping to reason with them. They all froze up hearing me and looked beyond surprised. The dragon just talked. The one who saw me said, snapping the others from their surprise. Of course, I can talk. What dragon cannot speak? I say to them, giving them a bewildered look like they are the crazy ones. No dragon can talk, not even the ones the nobles use. The same human says to me as the other humans shoot him a look of annoyance. He immediately shuts his mouth in fear. There are other dragons, and they allow humans to use them. I say more to myself, trying to imagine a dragon willing to listen to a human. Even my kind, the golden ones most known for their kindness, would rather die than let a human order them around. What he means, O lordly dragon, is the ones in charge of the city are dragon riders. They have bonds with dragons, letting them ride the dragon and battle alongside them, the older-looking human says while bowing his head to me with the smell of fear heavily coming off of him. Githyanki, is that who reigns over the city? No wonder the humans are treated the way they look. Maybe I should leave them in peace. They seem to be no threat to me. Then again, they could lead others here, I think to myself, wondering what these humans mean. As they all look at me in silence, afraid to speak. Dragon riders are the ones in charge of your city called Githyanki. What color dragons are the ones they ride? I ask them while looking down at them with scrutinizing glaze. I've no idea what a Githyanki is, but yes, they ride dragons are all colors. Though none that look as amazing as you do. Their scales are nowhere near as shiny, and you are the first dragon we have seen that is golden and can talk, the older human says while keeping his head bowed but looking at me in awe now. Hearing his praise of me, I instinctually puff my chest out in pride. I see, then I must apologize to you all, as it could lead to the death of many of my clan members, but you all must die. I will ensure it is quick, I say to them, and before they register what I said, I swiped my claws, killing 3 instantly as the other 2 run away screaming in fear. Though with a single leap, I covered the little distance they ran and sliced them in half with my claws. I looked down in sorrow for killing these humans as they were innocent in my eyes, but the life of my clan comes first and these humans threatened it. I picked up the bodies of the humans and flew them to the beach so I could burn them without destroying the forest. After burning the bodies, I cleaned myself from their blood in the ocean. Flying back to my cave, I found it to be mostly cleaned with only blood stains remaining from the dead dragon-like beast I killed earlier. I used my fire to burn away the blood stains and curled up for a nap, trying not to think about the screams of the innocent humans I killed. As golden dragons, we are usually kind to humans and other races, passing down our wisdom to them. But I'm not strong enough yet to fight dragon riders, and especially since it sounds like there are many dragon riders. Life seemed to go on, and for a dragon, a century is like a blink of an eye, especially since we can take prolonged periods of sleep. Resting for decades or centuries at a time, the average true dragon can live 5,000 to 6,500 years. The next few decades went by with Rock eventually passing on and his son taking over as the next clan head. I was deeply saddened by Rock's death, and this time did not grow attached to Rock's son as I did with Rock. I now understood the pain that came with getting attached to short-lived beings. As the decades went by, I was a few years short of reaching the adult stage of a dragon. With it, my size grew drastically, as I was basically an adult now and was just slightly smaller than my mother now, even though she was an ancient gold dragon. Like my mother said, I'm much larger than your average gold dragon, making me curious about my father and what type of dragon he was. Shaking off my sleepiness from the night before, I stepped out to the entrance of my cave and yawned. Though that sleepiness left me quickly as I heard a few roars in the distance. Roars that sounded like a dragon, but still not exactly like one, different in a weird way. Blank, underscore, blank, underscore, blank. And I made an auxiliary chapter labeled MC Info, that has the age range, sizes of MC, and abilities, along with the current spells he can use. 17 comments, 0 vote. Ch.6. Jumping out of my cave, I flew up very high into the air, though the volcano was still thousands of feet above me. I flew toward the roars to see a group of 3, what looked like wyverns, flying toward my domain. I circled above them as they flew deeper into the woods on the cusp of the area I claimed as mine. Once they landed, I could see a few humans dismounting the wyverns. My curiosity took over, so I dived down toward the group after seeing no others in the area. The 3 wyverns and riders did not notice me, as I dove toward them. The largest wyvern was reddish-brown and slightly more than half my size. The other 2 wyverns were smaller and of the same color. While the 3 humans each had only 3 things in common: their stark white hair, their pristine silver armor, and the sword strapped to their waists. I landed right on top of the 2 smaller wyverns' necks, crushing them to the ground, but leaving them alive for now. The larger wyvern jumped back in fright while releasing a torrent of fire at me, though the fire washed over me without any effect other than annoying me. In response, I let loose a roar that shook the ground below me as the wyvern bowed its head in submission and fear, due to its instinct to respect a true dragon. The 3 riders froze while one pulled his sword out as if he could hurt me. Humans, what are you doing in my domain? I say while looking down at them with annoyance as the free wyvern is still bowing its head in submission. My words surprised the 3 riders just as the previous humans I met decades ago. The dragon speaks. The one frightened rider says as the braver one stares me down with a look accepting death. Your domain. This is Valyria, the land of the greatest empire, and we go where we please, the braver rider says, and in response, my tail whips around and obliterates his body before any could react, exploding his body to pieces that flew in all directions. The 2 other humans immediately fell to their knees, bowing down just as the wyvern while shaking in fear. Seems these are the dragon riders the other humans spoke of. These foolish humans think that lesser beasts like these are dragons. I think to myself as my anger rises after being challenged by a human with no traces of magic capabilities. I met some humans decades ago that have come into my land without permission. They spoke of dragon riders. Tell me, are you these so-called dragon riders? I ask the remaining 2 humans who are shaking in fear. Other humans. One of the riders says briefly, looking up at me before looking back down in fear. My patience grows thin, I say as my tail whips the ground, shaking it beneath everyone's feet. Yes, Your Grace, we are one of the many dragon riders of the Empire of Valyria, the one human says while trying to think of what to call me, though I ignore that part. Fucking disgrace. These are no dragons, I think while crushing one of the wyverns underneath me. It lets out a pained yelp as its head explodes in my clawed hand. The other 2 wyverns shake in fear but do not move as they are frozen in fear. These are no dragons. I growl at them as I'm very pissed at the humans for believing they tamed dragons. No dragon has ever willingly followed a human. These are, well, I'm not too sure. They do have some identical blood of a true dragon in them. They look to be like a fouled mix of a true dragon and wyvern, I say while inspecting the creatures they rode here and see I've no idea what they technically are. Of course, Your Grace, the human who spoke earlier says trying to please me while both remain kneeled down, but steal glances at me every few minutes. Quote. It matters not, as I asked before, what brings you to my domain? I ask them once again and they both share a quick look before the same one who's been speaking looks up at me. As I'm sure Your Grace is aware, this island is extremely huge. Our empire may expand most of the known world, even though we currently are at war with the Giscan Empire once again for the 4th time this millennium, the human says and seems to have some hatred in his voice for this other empire that is at war with theirs. For those who don't know, that means the MC is in the God world roughly 5,000 years before Aegon the Conqueror, the ruler of House Targaryen invaded Westeros and roughly 5,300 years before the start of Robert Baratheon's rebellion. I asked why you are in my domain, not the ongoings of your empire, I say with a growl showing my impatience. The human bows his head once again in fear but speaks back up. Sorry Your Grace, we are here because our empire is looking to update the maps of its homeland. The Emperor is also looking to take over all of the islands under his influence. We have heard this place is cursed, but now I see that it is not, the human says with his head bowed, while I think if I should kill them or send them home to inform their emperor to leave my lands alone. I see, I say while contemplating the pros and cons. If I let them inform their emperor it may lead to him sending more riders to force me out, though they will all fail since they did not conquer true dragons. Though it will become annoying having to constantly kill his riders and it is not in my nature to kill all those in the city since they are innocent, I think as the 2 riders are still kneeling with their heads bowed in fear. Though if I kill them, the emperor may forget sending more riders as a waste of resources when they are fighting a war, same could be said if I let them live, I finish thinking having made my decision. I apologize, but like the past humans, I must kill you so I do not have to deal with your kind just yet, I say to them and whip my tail around to obliterate them before they can respond or move. May you rest in peace, I say after having killed the 2 humans and the 1 wyvern, I will call them wyverns, they are not dragons. Plus it is a compliment to wyverns to call them wyverns and an insult to call them dragons. Now what to do with you 2, I say more to myself as I release the 1 wyvern from underneath me which remains still as the fear from my presence alone keeps them in line. Come with me, I say to them as I notice 1 is female and 1 is male. The 2 wyverns quickly follow behind as I fly away back to my cave. Seems they understand Draconic to a certain degree, but cannot speak, I think while the 2 wyverns follow after me. Once I land the 2 wyverns land nervously behind me and bow their heads in fear once again. 3 kobolds run in hearing my return along with 2 other creatures, though the 2 wyverns growl threateningly at the appearance of the kobolds. Leave them be, they are under my protection, you are to not hunt them. I growl to the 2 wyverns who immediately bow their heads as the kobolds inspect them from afar. Golden King, what are you going to do with them? One of the kobolds asks me while looking at the wyverns. I'm not completely sure, though go as your clan leader if he thinks you can tame these as the humans did and ride them. Hunting would become easier, though you would have to breed them too. Luckily 1 is male and 1 is female, I say to the kobolds as 1 runs off to grab the clan leader. I then spent the next few hours making sure the wyverns did not harm the kobolds as the kobolds attempted to tame them as the humans did. Once I felt the wyverns knew not to harm the kobolds, I ushered them out of my cave to find their own on the mountainside. Time flew by with several centuries passing and with it, my entering adulthood. Though I missed a few decades from now each major stage in my life will be met by a prolonged sleep so my body and mind can transition to the new stage. Before my long nap, I ensure the kobolds successfully tamed the wyverns and they did. Plus by breeding them the kobolds are slowly amassing a small group of wyvern riders which only the greatest of hunters can attain. The Valyrian Empire only sent a handful of more riders several more times before my prolonged nap came. Each time I would kill the humans and bring back the surviving wyverns to add to the kobold collection. Then I left my cave and gave it to the 2 original wyverns, as I've grown too large for it. I made my new permanent home inside the volcano itself. As I found sleeping inside the lava is most enjoyable. I woke up at the bottom of the volcano which was about 1,000 feet below the surface, though for me it was like being underwater. Once I left the lava, I found myself in my adult form. My scales became even more shiny with a deep golden color, though you could still see a silvery sheen on them in certain light. I felt more knowledge enter my mind and the ability to shapeshift into any creature that is considered weaker than a true dragon. Though once I shapeshift I take on all the physical attributes of the average creature I become but keep all of my mental capabilities. I found turning into a human the most enjoyable outside being in my real form, as unlike any other form I chose, this is the only one I can do magic in outside my true form. By becoming an adult not only can I shapeshift, but I learned many new spells. Though many could only be performed in my human form, as I needed the hands humans use in spell making. The spells I learned that can only be used in a human form are Prestidigitation, Fire Bolt, Mage Hand, Burning Hands, Flame Blade, Flaming Orb, and Heat Metal. The only real downside of being a human is I'm much extremely physically weaker and more easily hurt. I can see why humans wear armor and use weapons outside of magic. Though I remain immune to fire and poison in my human form. However, I cannot be truly killed in my human form. If I die in the human form, it will only force me to show my true form, and I can die extremely easily in human form, it turns out. The other spells I learned and could use in either form were not many, but very useful. One is Gentle Repose, which keeps a dead body from decaying or being corrupted, but it only lasts a day at most. The others are Detect Thoughts, only surface thoughts, Cure Wound, which only heals minor injuries, and Comprehend Languages, which lasts several hours. With these abilities, I became much more relaxed in my ability to protect the clan and my domain from this Valyrian Empire. The only real thing that changed outside me is I no longer recognize any of the kobolds in the clan, as there are now thousands of members spanning the inside of the volcano. Plus all the ones I once knew are long dead. The clan though now looks to me as their king, calling me King of Fire and Fiery. 18 comments 0 vote. Ch.7. Shaking off the lava from my body as a new day started and I was finally hungry, so I stood on the platform I made for me to rest outside the lava. As I get older, the less I needed to eat or drink as my body becomes more reliant on magic as the source of energy. My body is mostly magic now, and as I get older I will only grow stronger in this aspect. With a final stretch, I jump into the air and fly out of the volcano, landing on its mouth and looking out over my domain. After enjoying the sunrise and morning air, I jump off the volcano, free-falling until halfway down when my wings snap out, halting my fall. As I pass the wyvern's place of residence, they all greeted me in a roar. Now that I'm halfway through my adult period of life, these past 500 years have flown by. As I flew in the sky, I decided to hunt in the ocean at the deeper area where these giant squids, whales, and sharks resided. They all tasted good in their own right, and I was in the mood for a few of them. As I flew over the ocean, I dipped down and used one hand to test the water's temperature. Much to my disappointment, it is still cold as ever, though I can take another relaxing swim in lava to warm me up. As I flew a few miles off the coast of the island, I found the prey I was searching for, a whale that was the size of an average wyvern. Before it could dive back down, making my hunt all that more annoying, I grabbed it, dug into its body, and flew it up in the air. The whale struggled in my grip, making weird noises, which I assume are in protest about it being killed soon. Once I landed back on the beach, I dropped the whale from a high height, killing it on impact as it ceased its movements. Landing next to it, I got the whale, removing the organs I won't eat and tossing them back into the ocean. Then with a quick breath of fire, I cooked it enough to my tastes. The fatty skin and outside were crispy, while the inside was warm and juicy. After eating the whole whale, leaving its bones on the beach for whatever to come and clean, I took a stroll through the forest. For the most part, I do not have much room while walking through the forest, but on this island, for some reason, everything is much larger than what I would have normally believed it to be. Though I suspect the days of me walking through the forest will soon end once I grow even larger and older. The years went by with me living a peaceful life as my kobold clan grew to be in the millions and inhabiting the whole volcano with several hundred as wyvern riders. The kobolds breed much faster than wyverns, plus the kobolds have adapted a new hierarchy. Much like humans now, with the descendant of Rock being the king of them and a noble faction of kobolds which are from the families of the first wyvern riders. The humans seem to have forgotten about our part of the island for whatever reason. As it is extremely rare to see one in these parts, though I've reached the final stage of my dragon life. However, I feel as if I can live for thousands of more years still, which normally when a dragon reaches this stage has at most 1,000 years of life left. I became more like a god to the kobolds, as rarely do dragons reach the stage one have. I've passed into being an ancient dragon, then reached the stage of a worm, and then finally hit the last stage of a great worm, a few centuries ago. My size far surpassed my mother's when she was alive. As of now, I believe I'm roughly 1,200 feet, 366 meters, long, and my wingspan is 1,500 feet, 457 meters, making me the largest known true dragon to ever exist. Because of my long life and appearance, the kobolds have begun calling me the Golden God. With my age, I rarely eat, and that is good because I feel I'd have to eat everything on the island to sustain myself. Though it appears my body is now basically all magic, as that is what keeps me alive. With this time the amount of spells I learned increased as well. I've also noticed that now my shapeshift form takes on my real physical strength as well, though I can still be just as easily killed in my human form. It took me a year just to learn to control my strength in shapeshifted form. The years have become very peaceful as I spend most of my time inside the volcano relaxing or napping the time away. The kobolds will come and visit once in a while to check in on me and tell me the ongoings of the clan. Though the peaceful days came to an end when one day I was resting inside the lava as I normally do. Then I heard a voice of a female human as she somehow entered the volcano that I call my home. For the full list of the spells, look at the chapter called MC Info, as of updated it. Blank, underscore, blank, underscore, blank. Pav unknown. The emperor had called all the noble families to war for the first time in millenniums. My father and 2 brothers had to go and assist the empire with the war. As the emperor wanted to take over the last of the places on the new land the empire discovered in the west. The people there call themselves the Roynish, and surprisingly they have a queen in charge of their people called Nymeria. Our empire doesn't allow women to become fighters as we are the household caretakers. Though I want to fight alongside my brothers and father, my mother and sisters do not understand my feeling. After having another fight with my mother, I decided to go explore the forest, there at least I can be alone. Though of course, my mother sent a few house guards to go after me for protection. It took me an hour or so before I lost my followers in the woods. However, I quickly discovered I myself became lost in the woods. Then I heard noises and low speaking of Draconic. What came out of the woods scared me as we've all heard stories from the escapees of the Forbidden Forest. Small dragon-like creatures live there and hunt humans on sight. Some even say that a huge dragon resides in the forest, as the few captured dragon creatures talked about their king of the volcano. Seeing the stories were somewhat true as a few small dragon-like creatures ran out of the forest throwing spears at me. I was able to dodge them and urge my horse to run away. After forcing my horse to run, I heard a few dragons roar above me and I looked up excited hoping that it was some riders of the city looking for me. However, I noticed these dragons were being ridden by the small dragon creatures. I forced my horse to run even harder away. Though no horse can outrun a dragon, one of the dragons dove down blasting a wave of fire at me. It missed luckily, though the force from the fire threw me off my horse and made my horse become heavily injured as it whined in pain. I ran to a small opening I saw in the mountainside, leaving my horse as a distraction. I ran blindly into the cave deeper and deeper. After what felt like hours of running, I stopped to catch my breath and found myself even more lost than I began. I should have listened to Mother, I say out loud in a small voice, feeling death surround me. Though I did not plan on dying yet, so I blindly started walking, trying to retrace my steps. After hours of walking and taking a few short rests, since I feel I've been in the mountain for a few days or so now, I eventually saw what looked like the light at the end of the tunnel I was walking in, and I ran to it, extremely excited to finally be out of this place. Though I fell to my knees to discover it didn't lead me to the outside, as all my hope disappeared and I felt death approaching me. Mother, Father, I'm so sorry I didn't listen sooner. I say while crying helplessly, since I'm going to die here inside this volcano. Then I feel the ground start shaking and I close my eyes with a bitter smile, thinking the volcano is going to end me. Then I heard shifting, like something was moving inside the volcano. Opening my eyes, I see the largest dragon ever to exist. Its head alone looked to be 100 times the size of my family's estate. The size of this dragon was unimaginable, though instead of fear I felt amazement, as it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. The golden scales glistened in the light from the lava and the golden eyes of the dragon showed what looked like millennials of experience. Human, who did you get inside my home? The dragon says with a voice so deep and heavy that it makes my body vibrate from it alone. Then my eyes widen. Did the dragon just talk? I think, while the dragon stares at me with eyes that show indifference, but I can see pity in them too. Human, I will ask once again, why and who are you here? The dragon says to me, snapping me from my surprise. Blank, underscore, blank, underscore, blank. Pav Talrit. I found a lone human that was haggard and looked to be on the brink of collapse. The small female human looked ready for death, but at the sight of me for the first time since I'd met humans did not show any fear. She showed amazement and excitement at my appearance, making me surprised. Plus, from her appearance, I felt some pity for this human as she appeared to be lost. This time I might let her live. The empire is of no threat to me now or my clan, which is prospering. Plus, this human is the first that doesn't fear me, I think to myself before asking the human what she is doing here. Though I have to ask twice due to her surprise at my ability to speak. Sorry, my lord, your highness, the woman says, trying to say a title that humans use for themselves. Just call me Talrit, I say, having no care for titles. As everything like pride and titles seems meaningless to someone like me who has lived millenniums and will continue to live many more. Okay, Talrot, I'm here because I got lost in the Forbidden Forest, which I assume is the place you rule. The human says to me with some curiosity. I guess if that is the place that my clan the Kobolds reside, then yes it is, I say while resting my head on my forearms with a yawn since it's been a while since last waking. Kobolds. Do you mean the small dragon creatures? They can ride dragons too. Was that you who taught them that? The woman says to me having no fear toward me. Yes, that would be them, and they do not ride dragons. Those things you call dragons are no dragons. They are wyverns, which are a very distant cousin of us true dragons, I say to her with an amused look since like I said pride means nothing to me anymore. Why would I care what lesser beings think of me when I could crush their city with one hand? Oh, the woman says to me not sure what to say next. So you have gotten lost and made your way to me. I would assume you come from the city on the other side of the mountains. Would you like to go home? I say to her and her eyes widen at my questions. You'll let me live, and you'll take me home. The woman says with surprise in her voice as I let a chuckle loose shaking the whole inside of the volcano. 23 comments 0 vote. Ch.8. So tell me human, what is your name? I ask the female human after I cast my magic to create some food and water for her. You can use magic, the woman says seeing food and water appear from nowhere without me even blinking an eye. Yes, and quite easily too. True dragons are the closest beings to magic as our body and blood are mostly magic. Though do you have a name or should I just refer to you as woman? I say to her with an amused look at the pitiful creature that is a human as she eagerly eats and drinks. Right sorry, I'm Aenella of House Targaryen, Aenella says to me in between eating and drinking. House? What do you mean? Do you have two names? I say to her since my knowledge of humans is really just their average abilities and capabilities. Oh, I take it you haven't met many humans. Aenella says to me while nodding her head to herself like she answered her own question. That would be accurate, my clan has ensured no humans are found trespassing on our lands. While the few I did I had to kill since I was not prepared to deal with your kind just yet. But fear not, as I said I will ensure your safety, as I've grown much since my last dealings with your kind and no longer am concerned with the possible war your kind may try to wage against me, I say to her as her face goes pale slightly in fear, but relaxes hearing my reassurance. Well, guess I'm lucky then, though not many humans have two names. Only a few humans like myself do. We are considered nobles and there are only a few noble houses in the Empire of Valerian. My house isn't the biggest or most influential, but we are still nobles, Aenella says to me while resting against the wall having eaten and drank her fill. The heat is starting to get to her I can tell, while the gases of the lava are being aired away from her by my presence passively. I see, is one of your members the leader of the Empire? I ask her as I manipulate the magic in the air to keep her cooler. Making her visibly relax. One of my ancestors was voted as the Emperor a long time ago. Though that title is just honorary really. The noble house each has a seat on the council that governs the city and empire, while they vote for one of the current house leaders' council members to take the seat of the emperor. The emperor only sits on the seat until the council members all vote them out or he dies, and from what I hear, the emperor doesn't really have all that much more power than the council, he just can change a few things without the council's approval, Aenella says to me with a shrug while thinking about her empire's leadership. That all seems pointless. Why have an approved leader but not give them actual powers to lead? Might as well just bicker with each other, I say while shaking my head at the stupidity. Aenella laughs hearing my response seemingly agreeing with me. You are not wrong, they do seem to just bicker all day from what my father tells us. Though he said the emperor really is more like a mediator of the council and can force some things to pass even without the approval of all the council members. So I guess the emperor does have some purpose, Aenella says shrugging her shoulders while thinking. If you say so, I say while relaxing in the lava no longer caring about human issues. Not to seem ungrateful or anything, but when can I return to my family? Aenella asks me and I open my eyes slightly to look at her since I'm still shaking off my sleepiness from my last prolonged nap. I'd say tomorrow, you should rest before I have my clan members bring you back to your territory. If you leave now you may collapse from exhaustion, do not worry nothing will bother you while you remain under my protection, I say to her and she looks mildly upset about not leaving right away, but nods her head laying on the ground to rest. Once she has fallen asleep, I use my natural connection to magic to easily find the kobolds stationed near the entrance to my home inside the volcano. Then I use the same connection to form a telepathic link to call for them. Once they enter they kneel before me in reverence, since the clan has come to see me as more of a god king than just a dragon because of my size. Do you see that human over there? I say to them and they both perk up ready to kill the human on sight, but before they can run over in a bloodthirsty frenzy I speak up. That human is under my protection, she will be escorted by the wyvern hunters tomorrow back to the human's territory. Should you ever run into her again for some reason, she is to remain unharmed but only her. I will inform her should she return here she can visit me at any time, but no one else can come with her, I say to the two kobolds who nod their heads accepting my commands without question. Go inform the others, I say while they run off quickly to follow my orders. The kobolds' love and respect for me has become insanely high, I could tell them all to throw themselves off the mountaintop and they would all follow through with it without question. Some millenniums ago a few of Rock's ancestors who I bestowed some of my magic in, curious about what would happen and have passed down the capability for the clan to use magic. Now the clan has a few magic casters, which are rarer than the wyvern riders. They are not the strongest magic casters, as the strongest amongst them can only use up to level 3 magic. While the average can only use level 1 spells and maybe a handful of level 2 spells. As the next day came I sat there watching Ainella sleep like a log as she was beyond physically exhausted. She woke up with a start jumping up looking around like she forgot where she was and then calmed down seeing me staring at her. Without another word I summoned more food and water for her, keeping the water suspended in the air so it does not fall to the ground or evaporate immediately from the heat in the chamber. Ainella thanked me once again and began eating her fill. I have informed my clan you are not to be killed and are under my protection. They will escort you back to your people's territory. Once you enter your territory you will be on your own though. Though if for some reason you ever find yourself back on our side, I have informed my clan you are still under my protection, though only you. So if you come back with others they will be killed should they enter my territory, but you will remain unharmed, I say to her and she just nods her head listening to me, but I can see she is holding something back. Speak your mind child, I say and her face become red in embarrassment before she speaks up. I have to use the bathroom, Ainella says to me with an embarrassed face. Then go back down the tunnel you came from, I'd rather not have my home littered with excrement, I say to her and her face becomes redder confusing me, but she nods and runs back down the tunnel she first came from. She comes back a few minutes later with a red face still while awkwardly sitting back down. Are you sick? Is the heat bothering you still? My magic should be keeping you comfortable, I say to her confused about her red face. What? Oh no, I'm not sick and yes I feel fine thank you. I'm just, well it's embarrassing to use the bathroom in front of others or even talk about it with others, Ainella says to me while looking away embarrassed. Humans are weird creatures, I think to myself as I've seen kobolds just use the bathroom constantly in front of whoever without care, even myself before I grew to no longer need to eat, use the bathroom regardless of who was around. Now I only eat for the flavor when I crave something, though it is rare for me to crave the flavor of food. You humans and your weird customs, I say with a shake of my head. What? Are you saying you can just go at any time? Ainella says to me with a surprised face, like I'm the crazy one. Yes, if I use the bathroom like I once did, then who cares, you have to go you go, I say to her as she looks at me like I'm the crazy one. Are you? Ainella begins to say before two kobolds run into my chamber and announce the hunters are ready when I command them to leave. Seems it is time for you to return to your home, I say turning back to Ainella who gives me a saddened look, seems she has grown fond of our talks. I will not lie, I've grown to enjoy the humans' company. Unlike the past humans, she does not fear me, nor like the kobolds treat me like a god and only wait for my commands. I miss the old days when Rock and I could just talk as equals, I think looking at Ainella leave nervously with the two kobolds. Wait, Ainella you are welcome to visit anytime, just come to our territory and tell the kobolds that you are here to visit me. They will escort you to me and escort you home as they are now. That is if you ever want to visit me again, I say to her and she smiles at me nodding her head, while the kobolds bow their heads to me to pass on my orders. Once they all leave the silence of the volcano returns with the only sounds of the lava beneath me. Then my loneliness returns, and sadness along with it. I've searched for years before and even sent out kobold hunters in search of another dragon. We have found no signs of one, seems I might just be the last of my kind in this world we came to. With no one to view me as an equal or speak with me like an equal I grew lonely, this human was the first being in a very long time since Rock, that spoke to me like an equal. I hope she comes back once again, or I may just go insane from lack of good conversation, I think to myself and rest back in the lava quickly letting sleep take me. I open my eyes hearing a kobold call out to me that the human I let leave has returned. I wake up immediately excited for a more interesting conversation. I ask the kobold how long has it been since she first left and he told me it was a few months since she first left. I excitedly waited for her to be escorted to me thinking about all the things I could tell her or teach her. While she can tell me more about the way humans live and how they view the world. Maybe if humans have ever come across another true dragon somewhere in the world. I would even accept a chromatic dragon as a friend or mate at this point. Talrot, did you miss me? Ainella says, walking in with a smile and looking much better since I last saw her. She was not wearing the torn-up dress as last time, but fine-looking leather armor and a sword at her hip. Very much tiny human, you are one of the few who is not afraid to hold a good conversation with me, I say while smiling at her, and she laughs hearing me. I relax into the lava ready for another fun conversation. 28 comments, 0 vote. Ch.9. So Ainella, how long are you staying? I ask her as she comes into my camber in the heart of the largest volcano on the island. I made her a stone chair and table to sit at since she told me humans enjoy those things. I can stay for the day but must return before nightfall, as it will take a month or so for me to return home. My mother believes I'm exploring the forest, which in a way I am. Though seems like last time I had to escape my family's house guard, Ainella says to me while looking at the fruit I summoned for her to eat. I see. Either way, I'm happy you came to visit. As I'm sure you can tell, I rarely get any visitors or anyone willing to hold a good conversation with, I say to her, and she laughs, nodding her head. Can I ask you what it is like living in a human city and more about your people's customs? I've never really had the chance to learn more about humans, I say to her while looking at her curiously, and she nods her head while eating some of the grapes I summoned. Not much more tell you that I already didn't, though I guess, as you can see, I'm not wearing a dress like last time. I was able to convince my mother to find me, someone, to teach me the way of the sword, Ainella says while taking out the sword she has and showing it off. Now I notice, focusing more on the sword, that faint magic is coming from the sword. Interesting, I have a few questions. First, why have you not learned this before? Do humans not like teaching others the way of the sword? Second, that sword is magical in essence, was the sword enchanted? I say to her while looking at the sword and seeing the wisps of magic coming off it. Unlike most creatures, dragons are so in tune with magic that we naturally can see magic when something is magically enchanted, and we can manipulate magic extremely easily. Well, according to our empire, women are not good enough or meant to be fighters. Though my family doesn't all feel that way, my father wasn't totally against me learning the sword. Plus, after convincing my mother, she allowed me to learn, Ainella says while shrugging her shoulders. That seems vastly stupid. From the stories my mother told me, most famous magic and fighters of the mortal races were sometimes female, I say to her while thinking about what my mother told me all those millenniums ago. Hearing about my past piqued her interest. Though before we got into that, I asked her about the sword again. Though for your sword, is it made with a special metal or process? I ask her, still curious about this sword, which is the first magical item I've come across on this island. As for my sword, I don't think it is enchanted. As far as I know, it was made like most other swords for nobles, out of the special steel the smiths use. I mean, sure, the sword was made especially like most noble swords, Ainella says, unsure while inspecting the sword. I see. Do you know the metal's name or what it looks like? I ask her while thinking if I came across this metal. Not too sure, though I could bring some with me next time, Ainella says to me. I'd appreciate that, I say to her with a nod of my head. She nods her head happily. So can I ask you about yourself? Ainella says to me, and I chuckle while nodding my head. Ask away, I say while shifting myself to get comfortable for this extended conversation. After a few hours of telling her stories of my life before I was forced to leave my mother behind, how I found myself here and what I went through here all these years, she listened patiently and attentively. By the end, I seemed to have captivated her with my life experiences. Talrot, do you think you could teach me magic? Ainella asks me once I finish telling her all about myself. I hum to myself while looking at her with a scrutinizing gaze, expecting her body's capabilities to use magic. She does seem to have some potential, though not much more than the current head of magic users amongst my kobold clan. You have some potential, though I feel your abilities would better be focused on the sword. Not that you cannot learn magic, just that you will only be able to reach level 3 spells. Maybe a few level 4 spells, I say to her while nodding my head at reading her magic that flows in every being's blood. The more magic one has, the more potential they have at using and learning magic. Amazing. So you will teach me? Ainella asks me, very excited while I think. I can, though that would take a few years just for you to learn the basics. That's if you dedicate most of your time to learning it. That would be you'd have to leave your family to stay here and learn from me, I say to her, and her face turns sad at the thought. Then I'm not sure I could learn magic, Ainella says with a sigh, though I think to myself for a bit. I could turn to my human form, this could let me learn more about them if I have her help while there. Plus I'm very curious about their kind, I think to myself as Ainella drinks the water I made. There is another way. Though that would require you to help me, I start to say, and she jumps up excited, interrupting me. Anything, Ainella says while I chuckle at her excitement. Then in front of her, I shit into my human form. The form I took is one I found to be what I prefer to look like. Taller, about 6 feet 3 inches, and with an average muscular build that any adventurer would have. Long platinum blonde hair, golden eyes, and slightly pointed ears like that of an elf. While I wore a silver cloak over a black silk shirt, dark brown pants, and black leather boots. Seeing my new appearance, Ainella's face flows wide and she blushes slightly. Seems my human form is attractive to her. You can turn into a human, Ainella says, breaking her surprised look. Yes, any true dragon once an adult can shift their appearance to anything that is below us, I say with a shrug, making her glare at me slightly since I called humans below us dragons, which I stand by. So will you help me while I come back with you to your home? In return, I will teach you about magic, I say to her, and she remembers the deal and nods her head quickly. Definitely. Though, before we leave I should teach you some formalities that will be expected of you since the nobles have easily wounded pride. I don't want someone to try to kill you, only for you to destroy the whole city, Ainella says to me and gestures for me to sit at the table. Nodding my head, Ainella then goes over all of her people's costumes with me, helping me learn what she calls noble etiquette. We spent the rest of the time with her teaching me everything she could in the limited time we had. This made me slightly annoyed that apparently, humans have all these different ways of addressing someone or acting a certain way. Though she told me she will help me more when we get to the city, to let her do most of the talking. I then informed the kobolds that I would be leaving with Ainella to see the city and learn more about the way humans live their lives. That I may be gone for a few years, at least in a decade at most, but should they ever need me to have the magic casts use the spell I taught them to send me a message anywhere in the world. With that I followed Ainella to the city. She was surprised to see me easily keep up with the horse's speed even in my human form. In any form I take, since I'm a great worm, the form keeps everything about me in my dragon form, except for the hardiness. So I'm still as easily killed as any other human, but am far more intelligent, dexterous, and stronger. After a couple of weeks of travel through the woods, we entered the human territory. Then another few weeks on the road, I saw the way some humans worked the fields and lived life. Then we finally came to the huge city in the far distance that I saw a couple of times while flying about the island. The city was far larger than I originally thought. It had to hold several 100 million humans at least. With one huge castle in the distance settled on one of the second volcano of the island. Throughout the city, I could see other smaller castles that Ainella told me were the noble houses and dragon lords of the city. There were also many people walking around with metal collars on their necks, which made me think they were prisoners. Though apparently, this empire partakes in slavery, which I find repulsive because every creature deserves freedom. Though unless I plan on subjugating the whole island, slavery will continue. On the way to the city, Ainella bought a horse for me to travel with her, even though I said it wasn't important. But she told me I'd be playing a noble-born, and noble-born apparently use horses to travel if they do not have a dragon. Following her lead, I just kept quiet while taking everything in about the way humans live their lives. After a few hours of traveling in the city, we arrived at one of the smaller castles in the city. Ainella informed me this was her family's ancestral home, where she grew up and her family lives. Walking up the castle's gated grounds, there were a few house guards that stopped us, but upon seeing Ainella bowed their heads, opening the way for her. They did not question me or even bat me a second look as I was traveling with their lady. Once we entered the grounds, a few of the enslaved humans ran over to take the horses from us. While I followed Ainella inside the entrance of her home, the demeanor of Ainella changed once we entered the city. She went from a free-spirited human to a more stone-faced and cold expression. This is the same look I saw on all the nobles in the city that Ainella seemed to notice and point out to me. These humans have weird customs and ways of living life. I wonder what makes them act this way, I think to myself as we enter the room, where I see an older-looking woman that shares a similar appearance to Ainella and two younger human girls that I assume are Ainella's sisters. Mother, I have returned. This is Lord Talrot of House Valtryes. I ran into him on my journey exploring the forest. He promised to teach me about magic. While we house him, he said it could take a few years, Ainella says to her mother, who turns to see us enter the room while the two younger girls run over and hug Ainella in greeting. House Valtryes. I haven't heard of that house before. Where is it that you hail from? The mother of Ainella says to me, while I'm unsure how to answer. I'm from Ojivora, I say, since that is the name of the place I was born, and I've no idea how to answer her. Ainella grimaces slightly because I answered before she could. I've never heard of Ojivora, her mother says, giving me a more suspicious look that I just shrug off. That is because it is across the seas, the empire has yet to conquer it. He came here to explore the world, Ainella says, quickly coming up with an excuse that makes her mother stare at us both a bit longer with suspicion. 30 comments, 0 vote. CH.10. I see. Well, how do you know he is a magic caster? They are extremely rare and few leave the places they made for protection, Ainella's mother says to her daughter while still eyeing me suspiciously. Magic is in my blood. I can easily perform almost any spell, I say to the older woman, making Ainella give me another sideways look. Then would you care to show me a demonstration? Ainella's mother says to me while motioning for me to show her. I look around the room really quickly and see that it is large enough for me to cast a spell without hurting anyone or damaging anything. Though from what she said, I figure even basic magic is impressive to them, so I cast silently prestidigitation and make a few sparks of magic appear around my hands. Seeing the extremely basic spell has the two younger girls gasp in amazement, while the older woman tries to appear unimpressed, but I can see the excitement behind her eyes. Is that good enough? I ask Ainella's mother. Yes, that was very interesting to say the least. I will agree to provide you with room and board, along with adequate pay until you believe my daughter has mastered your teachings. Though I will pay you even more if you can teach my other two daughters, Ainella's mother says, seemingly not caring about my origins anymore. I then look at the two younger girls who fidget while I inspect their magic capabilities. The one younger girl has little to no magic capabilities, so it would be impractical to teach her, though the other one has even better magic capabilities than Ainella. Your one daughter does not have much capabilities from what I can see, though your other one has even better aptitude than Lady Ainella, I say to her without lying, and the one young girl's face becomes saddened, while the other perks up excited to learn. Are you saying she cannot learn your magic? Ainella's mother asks me with a curious look. No, she can learn very little of my magic, but what she learns would not be that very useful in any way. While Lady Ainella and this one can learn much more and be even considered adept mages, I say with a shrug, and she nods her head thinking about what I said. I'm sorry, Daenerys, but if Lord Talrot says you cannot learn, then you will focus on what it means to be a lady of House Targaryen. While Ainella and Releasis will learn from Lord Talrot until he deems them masters of his magic, Ainella's mother says while giving me a nod, and I nod back to her. I believe I still have not given you my name. I am Lady Vaena of House Targaryen. I give you my word that while you teach and guide my children in the ways of magic, House Targaryen will provide for you. May I ask how long you believe it will take for them to learn all you can teach them? Lady Vaena says to me. Depending on how fast they pick things up, could take maybe a few years at best to a decade at worst, I say with a while thinking about what I could teach them. Quote. Very well, I expect you two to listen well and do your best to learn from Lord Talrot. Lord Talrot, I would ask you to provide me weekly updates on my daughter's progresses, Lady Vaena says to her daughters, then turns to me. No problem, I say, nodding my head. One of you show Lord Talrot where he will be staying during his time with us. Ainella, stay here, I would like to speak with you alone. Lord Talrot, once my servants show you to your room, feel free to ask them to show you around our grounds and city if that would please you, Lady Vaena says to one of the slaves nearby, who quickly bows to her and then me, gesturing for me to follow them. The room they show me to is a very large place that I assume is where humans sleep. As the room has a bed that looks like it could fit 5 humans comfortably and a few other pieces of fine wooden structures that I have no idea what are used for. One even has a silver plate above it, that I can see my appearance in. The room even has a weird metal bucket in the corner, that still smells of excrement even though it appears clean. My lord, if you need anything just call for me, Lady Vaena has made me be your personal servant while you stay here, a new slave woman says, stepping into the room wearing a white silk robe that is finer than other slaves I saw in the city. She also appears to be well taken care of and is looking at me with a lustful look. What is your name? I say while looking back around the room inspecting my surrounding. I also could not detect any magic in the room or the rooms I passed while walking through the castle. Jaela, my lord, Jaela says to me while bowing her head to me. How long have you worked here? I ask her with some contempt in my voice, thinking about the slavery in the city. I've been here since I was born. My mother was a servant and so I became a servant too, Jaela says to me while still looking at me with some hidden lust in her eyes. I see, I say as disgust fills me at how humans can just enslave beings so easily and not bat an eye for the terrible act. I can tell you are not from here, my lord. You seem to not like the idea of slavery, Jaela says to me, and it seems I was not hiding my disgust as well as I thought. You are correct, I was brought up to believe that all beings deserve freedom and happiness. Though I'm not foolish enough to believe that every being finds happiness or freedom. The only way for that to be possible is for someone to control the whole world and enforce those ideals. That would be next to impossible, I say to her while looking out the window and having the scenery take my mind away from the horrible state I find this city in. The room falls into silence as Jaela is unsure what to say or do now. Do you know when Lady Vena wants me to begin teaching her daughters? I ask Jaela while still looking out the window at the garden outside the castle. My mother would like you to begin tomorrow and she wants you to teach us every morning for a few hours, then we will have other duties to attend to, I hear Ainella say while entering my room, and I turn to see Jaela bowing her head respectfully to Ainella as she enters. Okay, I can do that, I say, nodding my head and beginning to form plans on teaching the two of them. You can leave us, Ainella says to Jaela, who hesitates for a second before nodding her head and quickly leaving the room. Once we are alone, Ainella lets out a sigh and deflated a bit, looking mentally tired. I raise an eyebrow, curious about why she is like this. She gives me a small tired smile and pours herself a glass of red liquid that was on a stand by the wooden table in the room. Want some? Ainella asks me as I watch her take a sip of the red water. What is it? I say, walking over and smelling the drink that she pours me with a smirk on her face, not answering me. The drink smells sweet, with hints of bitterness. I take a small sip and the flavor hits me and I enjoy the taste very much. I down the rest in one quick motion, holding out my cup for more. Ainella chuckles seeing me do this. That was amazing. What is this red water? I ask her as she pours me another glass. This time I drink more slowly, savoring the flavor. Sometimes I forget you are a dragon disguised as a human. This is called wine and is made especially by one of the other noble families in the city. Each house has something they are known for. My house is one of the smallest in the city. We are really not known for anything yet, Ainella says to me, answering some of the questions I would have asked, while I nod my head enjoying this red water called wine. Can I explore the city? There is still daylight left and I assume that means I can go out still. I ask Ainella, who nods her head. You can explore the city as long as you want. You are a noble. Here is a small crest showing you are a guest of my house. Carry this at all times and almost no one will bother you. I would come with you, but my mother needs me to do some things. I will have the servant my mother assigned to you and some of our family guards to accompany you, Ainella says to me before downing the rest of her wine and leaving the room. If she wants to talk she will, I think to myself as I see Ainella leave with a complicated look on her face. Then I leave with Jaela and 4 of the guards that stay at the Targaryen's castle. I have Jaela show me all the interesting places in the city. The first place we see is the docks that have huge wooden ships coming and going. Then we stop at many shops selling random trinkets to food. I try most of the food I come across since humans cook amazing food. The guards are carrying the gold that Ainella's family is paying me with and hand over the cost of the things I bought. As we were walking, we came across a place where many men and soldiers were leaving. Each had a smile on their face after leaving. The sign said, "Sweet Maiden." I've no idea what a maiden is, but I know I like sweets, and with all the happy men leaving, the food must be very good. I begin to walk towards it, making Jaela shift uncomfortably, while the guards give me a surprised look. My lord, there are better places than this for a man of your stature, Jaela says to me before I can enter the place. Right, these humans and the belief that certain places are for the lessers. Fine, as long as they bring me to one that makes just as good food, I think to myself and turn to Jaela. Fine, then bring to a place that makes men just as happy as the ones leaving, I say, gesturing to the men leaving the place with happy looks. The guards hold back some laughs, by clearing their throats, while Jaela gives me an embarrassed look. There is one in the noble district that is more suited to your stature, Jaela says to me, quickly showing me the way as I just nod my head following behind her. The place she brings me to is called House of Pleasures, though this time I see very rich men and noblemen leaving the place. Some with smirks and happy faces. I nod my head since this place appears to be just as good as the other. Okay, let's go, I say, walking towards it as the guards follow behind. Jaela has a red face and quickly follows too, confusing me. Entering inside, I see many naked or practically naked women and some men walking around. Then I see a very fine dressed man at the counter. Seeing he is probably who I want to talk to, I walk over to him. The place smells very different than any other food establishment I've been to, but since all the men leaving it have happy faces, the place must serve good food. Why is everyone naked? Must be just another weird human custom, I think, ignoring the naked humans walking around. 18 comments, 0 vote. CH.11. Can I help you, my lord? The finely dressed man at the counter asks me as I walk over to him, with my small group behind me. Yes, I would like the most popular items you have to offer here, I say to him, and the man's eyes go wide for a second, but quickly hides his surprise, going back to his professional face. Of course, my lord, though some of them are preoccupied and may take a bit before coming. Are you able to wait an hour? The man asks, confusing me, but waiting for a dragon, especially 1 hour, is nothing. Of course, I say with a shrug as I'm really looking forward to this food. Then follow me, my lord, the man says, and I follow behind with my group following after me. The man brings me to a very large bedroom with the same fancy wooden furniture that the Targaryens have in the room I'm staying at. Then I see a table with some wine and fruits on it. I make my way over and is enjoying the great food the humans make. While the guard hands some gold over to the man we followed, the guards stand outside the room, while Jaela stands by the table awkwardly watching me. You can join me, Jaela. I do not mind, I say to her, making her eyes go wide and her face become reddened, confusing me further. You do not have to if you don't want to, I say, trying to placate her. She may be a slave according to humans, but I will treat her as I would any other living being. I will join you if you want me to, my lord, Jaela says to me with a red face, still looking at me with lust in her eyes. Quote. It's more about whether you want to join me, I say, confused, and she nods her head, walking over to me and taking a seat at the table I am at, fidgeting in her seat. I enjoy the food and wine the place provided while I wait for the main course. I also convince Jaela to enjoy the food and wine after many encouragements. Then the door opened and 5 young women that were dressed very little walked in. The man from earlier bowed his head, introducing them. I just nodded my head, confused, though maybe these women would be giving me the food. Once the man left, they all walked over to me with swaying hips. Though their eyes betrayed them, as all of them looked slightly empty on the inside, like someone took their souls from them. Feeling pity for these women, I stood up to ask them what is wrong, but then they immediately began to place their hands all over my body. As one slid her hand down to my item that made me a male. Instinctively I grabbed her hand, stopping her with a glare, making everyone in the room pause as my true presence leaked out, instilling absolute fear in any being lesser than me. We metallic dragons, especially golden dragons, only take one mate in our entire lives. When we find that mate, we go through a mating ritual that binds our souls together in a way that connects us deeper than anything else could. This allows us to know where our mate is, no matter where they are, how our mate truly feels, and if they are still living. The real thing it does is empower both of us dragons by binding our souls together slightly, but at the same time, if one of the pair dies, the other becomes much weaker as half their new soul is missing. So when this human attempted to touch me where only the one being I chose as my mate would, I became very upset. Though I reined in my anger quickly after releasing the woman's hand, then my naivety hit me. This place is a place for humans to have sex. Humans, like kobolds, appear to have more than one partner before settling down with one. Though I do not believe I cannot follow my natural instincts this time when it comes to finding a true mate. Though as I get older I know that I may never pass on my lineage, however at the same time I've come to terms with never finding a mate. You have all been paid, correct? I say to the women as they all stare at me with confused faces and wait for me to do or say something. Yes, my lord, one of the women says with a nervous and confused voice. Good, then take this time I paid for as a break. I will be taking my leave. I seem to have confused this place for something else, I say, standing up and leaving the place that I now realize is where many humans are copulating. Did we do something wrong, my lord? One of the other women says, confused and worried about something for some reason. No, none of you have done anything wrong. This was a mistake on my part, I say, bowing my head slightly in apology, surprising the women to a very high degree, as Jaela looks at me surprised too. Did I apologize wrong? This is how Ainella taught me to apologize, I think to myself, but brush it off as I want to leave this place where I now recognize the scent as many humans mating. As I walk through the doors and leave this place, the guards following me also give me confused looks, but say nothing. While Jaela is also very confused, but says nothing, following after me. Then I hear the man from the counter rush outside after me with a very worried face. My lord, did one of those women do something wrong? I will make sure they are properly punished, the man says with a worried face, though I can tell he holds some contempt for the women who work here. No, this was a misunderstanding on my part. They did nothing wrong, let them keep the money I gave them, I say to him, and the man nods his head quickly before bowing to me as I walk back to the Targaryen home. I no longer want to walk about as this experience soured my mood. Come, let us return to the castle, I say to everyone as Jaela quickly leads the way back with the guards following after us. Once I return back to the Targaryen's castle, I go to my room with Jaela following behind me. Once we enter the room, I bid her to sit down by the table with a few chairs around it in my room. Then I pour us both some wine as I sit across from her, as I think about all the things I still do not know about humans. Tell me, Jaela, all about the customs of this place. It seems from where I come from and know is not enough to go exploring on my own, I say to her, trying to word it in a way that leaves little confusion. Of course, my lord. Did they not have brothels where you come from? Jaela says to me while giving me a curious look. No, I was raised to find a partner who I could spend the rest of my life with. I still have yet to find her, I say, trying to think how to explain it to her without saying what I really am. She just nods her head, not sure what to say. So Jaela, can you tell me all you know about the customs of this place? I say to her once again, and she nods her head. For the next few hours, Jaela explains everything she knows about the city and the way these dragon lords run the city. She tells me as much history as a slave like herself learned just from being in the Targaryen care. The more she tells me about the inner workings of the city and how humans live their day-to-day lives, I've come to realize how little I really knew about them, and that they are much more complex beings than I originally thought. By the time she finished giving me a brief understanding of the culture of the city and the way humans live their life, it was dark outside. Jaela excused herself to go sleep and prepare for the next day, while I asked one of the guards if the castle held a library and if I could see it. The guard nodded his head, taking me to the library, where I spent the whole night reading as much as I could about the history of these humans. I found many interesting things they learned about the world and the way they perceived everything around them. My reading was interrupted by Jaela, who found me amidst dozens of books. My lord, Lady Targaryen has requested your presence at the dining hall. The cooks have started to serve food, so you all can break your fast, Jaela says to me while I stand and snap my fingers, casting prestidigitation on myself, cleaning my human body. I've come to learn that daily cleanings are necessary as my human body becomes dirty easily. The magic surprised Jaela, who knows I'm a mage, but still seeing even basic magic is huge to humans. I read in one of the books just how rare magic has become in the world, that it used to be very prominent a few millennia ago, but the number of people who can learn or cast magic has begun lessening for some reason. I believe it is a combination of human greed and fear, as the ones who know it do not want to share their knowledge. The ones who do not fear the ones who do and kill them if possible. I follow Jaela into the dining hall where noble humans eat, as for some reason nobles have rooms for all sorts of things, while your average human has maybe 1 or 2 rooms, possibly 3 if they are lucky. As I enter, the family of Targaryens is eating at the table and nods their heads to me in greeting. I sit next to Aenella as she is the only one I'm most comfortable around. Good morning, Lord Valtryes. I heard you spent the night reading. I hope you still have the energy to teach my daughters, Lady Vaena says to me with a raised eyebrow. I don't need that much sleep these days. Though when I do sleep I can sleep for some time, I say to her, and she nods her head as the room falls into silence for a few minutes. I got a letter from your father last afternoon. Seems the war is almost over and they should be on their way home by now if what he said is true. Your father and brothers should be home within a few months, Lady Vaena says to her daughters as the 2 younger ones perk up excited at the news, while Aenella seems happy but worried at the same time. The rest of the time eating is spent with her 2 younger daughters asking everything they could from their mother about their father and brothers, while Aenella seemed lost in thought. Then after we finished eating, I brought Aenella and Releasis outside with me to the garden, as I preferred open air when it comes to using magic. Plus these places humans use as homes are too stuffy for my taste. First, before I can even begin to teach you anything about spells, you both must learn to sense the mana inside yourself. Then you must learn to use that mana to take the shape of the spell you cast. In the beginning, you will be using a lot of verbal and hand movements to cast spells. Though the more you learn and use the spells, the less you need to do or use to cast it. Plus the more mana you have, the easier it is to use the spells, but at the same time, you need refinement to use magic, I say to them as the 2 girls listen to me closely. 17 comments, 0 vote. Ch.12. I made the 2 girls sit on the ground and meditate while trying to sense the mana inside them. I first sent a wave of mana to each of their bodies to stimulate their mana so they could know what it feels like. Then it was up to them to learn to feel this mana on their own. Like that, we spent the next 2 months with them meditating every morning. Then Releasis was the first to understand how to bring out her mana. With Aenella learned it a few days later, once they both had that down. I began teaching them the importance of using the correct words and hand gestures, as one mistake can cause the spell to backfire. In the mornings I would have them meditate until they could instinctually bring forth their mana, as dragons are born with that ability, while every other race must learn it. Then in the afternoons, I would teach them the words and hand gestures used in most spells. In between the 2 lessons their mother had them learn whatever it is a noble learns. Then one afternoon, as I was in the middle of lecturing the girls on their mistakes in this lesson with their verbal commands and hand gestures, we hear a roar of a few wyverns coming our way, and then a slave walked in, disrupting the lesson. The family, like all nobles in this city, has wyverns in their house. The Targaryens have 5 in total. 3 are for the men and the other 2 are the females for breeding. I apologize, my Lord Valtryes, my Lady Aenella, and my Lady Releasis. But Milady Vena asks you all come to back inside, as the milords have returned, the slave says with a bowed head, and the two girls share a happy look. Releasis runs inside to see her father and brothers, while Ainella calmly follows after her with a complicated look on her face. I follow behind the two with a neutral expression, as Ainella has taught me pretty much everything it means to act like a noble, while Jaella has taught me the ins and outs of the culture. As I enter inside, I see a middle-aged man close to Ainella's mother's age, who I assume is the father. The two parents share very similar looks, seems they are very close cousins, as apparently, nobles believe in blood purity. Meaning only nobles can marry each other, which means that many nobles are more related to each other than they realize. The two younger men are brothers, just like everyone in this family, and nobles in the city. They all have stark white hair, silvery in contrast, and purple eyes. Though I can sense faint magic coming from the swords each man carries, seems these are the same make as Ainella's sword. The three men still appear to be wearing full very fine suits of armor. Once the family has finished all their greetings, even though Ainella seems stiff in her movements, the three men turn to me and eye me up with a scrutinizing gaze, just as Lady Vena did on my first day here. So you must be the Lord Valtores, I kept hearing about in the letters from my daughters and wife. I'm Lord Rahalar Targaryen, this is my son and heir Beliavar. This is my second son Tahalar, Rahalar says to me while introducing himself and his sons. A pleasure to meet you all, as you know I'm Lord Valtores, I say to them and offer the same greeting back. My sister says you are a mage, is that true? Tahalar says to me with a smirk on his face. While the two other men give him side glances. Very much so, I say while snapping my fingers and casting prestidigitation on all three of the men, cleaning the little dirt they still had on them. While also giving them a fresh scent. The three men give me the same surprised expressions every other human has seeing magic, even the most basic magic. Seems everything we heard is true then. Do you think you could teach my sons any magic? Lord Rahalar says to me with a curious look. While I inspect the three men for any magical traces. Though each is not skilled in magic, they do have some mana like every other creature, but nothing to waste time on teaching. None of you appear to have enough mana inside you to learn anything useful, I say to them, and Lord Rahalar nods his head in understanding. Though Daenerys seems happy she is not the only one who couldn't learn magic. Understandable. Either way, I am thankful for you teaching my daughters. As my wife said, you are our guest for as long as it takes to teach them. Plus you will always have our family's goodwill for this, Lord Rahalar says to me with a small bow of his head in thanks. No problem, I did promise to teach them. Though I appreciate the sentiment, I say to him bowing my head back in thanks. Well, can my daughters skip the rest of the lesson today? I would like to see them all after having been gone for over a year now, Lord Rahalar says to me. There is no issue with that, I have a lot of time, I say to him as I will outlive the rest of these humans for several dozen generations and longer. He nods his head in appreciation, while his family follows behind him and his sons. The two youngest daughters ask their father and brothers question after question. Seeing them leave, I make my to the library to read more books. I've read maybe 10% of the library, though by the time I finish teaching the girls I should be able to finish reading it all. The library holds thousands of books, as it appears to be holding all the books the Targaryen family has written about themselves or collected over the years. After a few hours of reading, Jaella comes to find me to bring me to the dining hall for dinner. Walking in, I see the last of the family taking their seats as I sit down next to Ainella and across from Beliavar. The slaves then bring out a huge meal consisting of all sorts of food. Even a whole pig was brought out to the table, and I found this animal along with cows as my favorite, as both are extremely fatty and flavorful. The meal is not in silence as the younger girls are still pestering their father and brothers about the war they were a part of. The brothers answered most of the questions, as Lord Rahalar seemed mentally tired from the war, probably having more responsibility than the brothers. Lord Valtores, my wife told me you are not from around here. Can I ask what brought you to Valyria? Lord Rahalar says to me, stopping the other conversation in the room as the brothers are interested in this too. Experiencing new things and learning brought me here. As I know very little about the Valyrian culture or what life was like outside my home, I say to him and he nods his head listening to me. So you must have traveled far, since the place you hail from is nothing I'm familiar with, Lord Rahalar says to me, and just as his wife seems to not believe my story, which is not completely true. I traveled very far, as I left behind my only family. They are most likely dead now, as it has been a long time since I last saw them, I say with some genuine sadness in my voice, remembering my mother and Rock, who died a very long time ago. I apologize for bringing back some memories, that was not my intention, Lord Rahalar says with an apologetic look. It is fine, like I said, it's all in the past now, I say with a small sigh, pushing my sadness away. Lord Rahalar nods his head in understanding. Where did you learn your magic? Balayavar asks me with a curious look. My family is a long line of very strong magic users. We are each born with high capabilities and learn to use them as we grow older, I say to him, and technically I'm not lying. Makes sense. I'm sure your family has chosen its members well, Balayavar says, nodding his head, suggesting that like the nobles of this city, my family has only bred with family. I just ignore the statement as nothing I say will be good. What kind of magic can you do? Tahalar asks me, breaking the silence that took over the room for a few seconds. All sorts of spells, from common everyday spells to very destructive spells. Even a few that can heal others, I say, trying to sum up some of my abilities. Damn, I wish I could learn some magic, Tahalar says with some jealousy in his voice. Then the room falls silent as everyone is full of food and happy. Though before we all leave for our separate ways, I was curious if the family would teach me swordplay. As even though it is over useless to me, I wanted to learn to pass the time I was not teaching the girls. I have a small request, Lord Rahalar, if possible would someone be able to teach me to wield a sword? You see, my family are all very capable magic users and do not place much faith in the use of a sword, but I'm curious on how to use one, I ask the lord of the house. He stops and contemplates it for a few seconds, then nods his head in affirmation. I see no issue in that. You are teaching my daughter's magic. My son Balayavar is the best swordsman of the family, he can teach you in between your lessons with my daughters if that works for you, Lord Rahalar says to me, gesturing to his oldest son, who gives me a look over, judging my body. I appreciate that. Then I will be in your care, Lord Balayavar, I say, thanking Lord Rahalar, and I turn to Balayavar, who nods his head to me. As the next morning comes, I watch the girls meditate to see if they finally learn to passively channel their mana. The time comes for my first lesson with Balayavar, who is wearing fine leather armor and had me put on the same leather armor. He then hands me a blunted metal sword which was heavier than I thought. But since I can use the real strength of my true form that took me years to control in my human form, this sword weighs nothing to me. First I will show you the proper stances and footwork needed in a fight between swordsmen. Then once I feel you have gotten it down, we will move on to the proper way to wield a sword. Once I feel you have learned that to an appropriate degree, we will move on to sparring to refine your skills. Though no matter how much one spars, there is nothing like real fighting, as that is where one learns the most, Balayavar says to me, and then begins showing me how to stand and move with a sword. As a dragon, we can learn new languages, abilities, spells, and weapon training, faster than any other creature. What would take a human years of training and learning how to properly use a sword took me a few weeks. My quick learning surprised Balayavar and the others, as they said I appear to be a protege in the art of sword fighting. Over the next year, I finished learning everything I could about using the sword from Balayavar. The two girls have finally learned to naturally call upon their mana and use it for the spells they are trying to cast. The only thing left now is for me to teach them some of the spells I know, which could take a few more years, since the stronger the spell the harder it is to use. So the first spells I began teaching them were cantrips, like prestidigitation, mage hand, dancing lights, mending, and fire bolt. So far they are just beginning to understand how to cast prestidigitation.